ever wonder why California's housing prices soar higher than anywhere else in the US? Why infrastructure projects drag on forever? Why your water and energy bills keep climbing? Or why gas costs $2 to $3 more than any other state? There's a hidden force at play: the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. Most of you probably haven't heard of it, but this 1970 law shapes every major project in California, from homes to highways to reservoirs. CEQA was meant to protect our environment, and it's done some good, but it's also become a tool for manipulation used by special interest groups like unions, greedy politicians, and unelected bureaucrats, often at the expense of everyday citizens like you. This is the first part of a series of videos diving into what CEQA is, how it impacts your daily life, and why it's time to talk about reforming it or abolishing it entirely. Stick around. We'll explore CEQA's history, how it's evolved over the years, and what it's become today, a law desperately needing repeal or reform. The California Environmental Quality Act, commonly known as CEQA, was enacted in 1970 under Governor Ronald Reagan. Signed into law on September 18, 1970, it came into effect on January 1, 1971. CEQA was inspired by the National Environmental Policy Act, which had just been passed by the U.S. Congress in 1969. The legislation emerged during a period of growing environmental awareness in the United States, spurred by events like the 1969 Santa Barbara oil spill, which heightened public demand for stronger environmental protection. CEQA's primary purpose is to ensure that public agencies consider the environmental impacts of their decisions. It requires state and local agencies to identify the significant environmental effects of proposed projects, such as construction, infrastructure development, and land use changes, and to mitigate those impacts where feasible. The law applies to projects that require discretionary approval from a public agency, meaning the agency has the authority to approve, deny, or modify the project. The origins of CEQA can be traced to a 1969 lawsuit, Friends of Mammoth vs. Board of Supervisors, which challenged a development project in Mono County. The California Supreme Court ruled in 1972 that CEQA applied not just to public projects, but also to private activities requiring government permits, significantly broadening its scope. This decision solidified CEQA's role as a cornerstone of California environmental law. By 1976, lawmakers added rules forcing agencies to propose fixes or alternatives to cut environmental damage. The 80s and 90s fine-tuned the process with detailed reports called Environmental Impact Reports, EIRs, and negative declarations, which assess whether a project has significant environmental effects that could sink or save a project. In 2008, Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger was a strong advocate for climate policies, including the Global Warming Solutions Act of 2006, AB 32. Schwarzenegger signed SB 375, officially known as the Sustainable Communities and Climate Protection Act of 2008, as part of his broader environmental agenda, emphasizing sustainable growth and reduced car dependency. What initially started out as a 10-page checklist is now a 500 to 600 page monster with over 440 pages of guidelines and regulations. We've seen how CEQA started as an environmental protector, but grew into a beast that slows California down. So who's twisting it into a weapon, and how? It's unions, politicians, and unelected bureaucrats. So let's break it down. First, unions. They've mastered using CEQA to strong-arm developers. Their trick: file lawsuits claiming a project's environmental report misses something, like traffic or air quality, then drop the case once they get a union contract. In 2018, the Carpenters Union sued over the Icon Panorama project in LA's San Fernando Valley, a 623-unit housing and retail complex. They claimed it worsened traffic, but offered to back off if the developer used only union labor. That delay added costs, pushing up rents. Politicians use CEQA to play games, delaying projects to win votes or funneling approvals to campaign donors. In Los Angeles, council members have stalled housing projects with CEQA technicalities, only to greenlight others for connected developers. It's a power trip that keeps affordable homes off the market, driving up costs for regular folks like you. Democrats hold a supermajority, over 3/4 of the legislature in 2025. They can pass any law without a single Republican vote. This unchecked power allows these Democrat politicians to exploit our system. We have a Democrat governor, a Democrat lieutenant governor, a Democrat attorney general, a Democrat secretary of state, Democrat mayors, city councils, and district attorneys, all over California, stacking appointed positions with loyal allies, friends, family, or political cronies, paving the way for a bureaucratic nightmare. Which brings us to the bureaucracy. These unelected bureaucrats who pile on red tape, like the California Water Boards or the California Department of Water Resources. Take the 2025 Palisades fire in Los Angeles and Malibu, where 5,300 homes burned. Firefighters were crippled because the San Ynez Reservoir, 117 million gallons, was empty and 20% of hydrants ran dry. Why? The reservoir was offline since February 2024 for a torn cover. Delayed by CEQA's endless environmental reviews and the city's slow bidding process, bureaucrats demanded years of studies for water upgrades, stalling projects like new tanks in Malibu that could have helped. This isn't about saving wildlife. It's CEQA choking critical infrastructure, leaving us with high water bills and no fire protection. Union lawsuits, political stalling, and bureaucratic overreach mean fewer homes, more expensive energy, and gas at $4.70 a gallon when the country's at $2.80. CEQA's a tool for manipulation, and you're paying the price. Next, we'll show you what this mess looks like on the ground and why reform can't wait. CEQA's lawsuits and red tape make California unlivable, with crushing rents, soaring energy costs, and a vanishing middle class. While the super wealthy thrive, millions struggle or slip below the poverty line. In San Francisco, a 2016 plan for 1,100 mixed-income homes at Balboa Reservoir, half affordable, still hasn't broken ground in 2025. Unions sued over Balboa's traffic impacts, while bureaucrats demanded shadow studies, delaying 1,100 homes for 9 years and counting. Costs ballooned, and those affordable units remain a pipe dream. The state is short 3.5 million homes. All these delays and lawsuits keep rents crushing. In Los Angeles, the average one-bedroom is $2,500, while in San Francisco, a one-bedroom goes for $3,500. And these units are surrounded by crime in the streets and homeless all over the sidewalks and in front of your door. When the Sacramento Kings wanted to build a new downtown arena and keep the team from leaving town, city and state politicians gave exemptions and streamlined the building process. A law firm, Holland and Knight, who deals with CEQA lawsuits all the time, reported in 2015 that 64% of those filing CEQA lawsuits are individuals or local associations with zero history of environmental advocacy or activism. The study goes further and says projects designed to advance California's environmental policy objectives are the most frequent targets of CEQA lawsuits. These include transit projects, multifamily housing, parks, schools, and libraries. It notes that 80% of the CEQA lawsuits are in infill locations, which is where environmentalists want us to build. Infill locations are underdeveloped or underutilized parcels of land within already built-up areas, typically urban or suburban, that are suitable for new development. These locations are often surrounded by existing buildings and infrastructure. In 2022, a report by Holland and Knight for the Center of Jobs and the Economy, CEQA lawsuits targeting new housing production continue to expand, with 47,999 housing units targeted in the CEQA lawsuits filed just in 2020. So we've unpacked CEQA's history and where we are now. Insane housing costs, unaffordable rents, soaring energy prices, failing infrastructure, and gas at $4.70 a gallon while the nation's at $2.80. So what can we do? Unfortunately, CEQA's a law. Not even a governor can wipe it out with an executive order. But they can order state agencies like Caltrans to fast-track CEQA exemptions. Think affordable housing or water projects, or simplify reviews to mimic the lean 1970s version. That could slash delays, cutting 20 to 30% off housing costs, so a San Francisco studio isn't $3,500 a month, or the average home price isn't $780,000. What's the catch? Lawsuits from unions or environmental activists could freeze those moves in weeks, and cities, not the governor, control projects. Real change needs a new law to strip CEQA back or scrap it entirely. For that, California needs a seismic shift. The state assembly and state senate must be balanced. No more Democratic supermajority. A slim majority, 41 out of 80 in the assembly, 21 out of 40 in the Senate, could pass reforms to protect the environment while making California affordable. Let me be absolutely clear. This isn't a left or right issue. It's a California issue. For decades, one-party policies have allowed CEQA to morph into an unwieldy beast, stifling progress and choking the state and its citizens. Once a shining beacon for the nation, California has become a cautionary tale of bureaucratic overreach, missed opportunities, corruption, and incompetent leadership. You're probably thinking, okay, dude, a massive Republican surge or big flips in California sound impossible or even years away. How does that help me now? What you can do is call your state senator or assembly member and demand CEQA reform to stop union shakedowns, political games, and bureaucratic nonsense. You can educate your family and friends about CEQA's hidden toll. Like, comment, and share this video, because next I'm going to tackle California Air Resources Board, the Water Resources Board, the California Coastal Commission, unions, and way more. Thanks for watching.